Hello and welcome to Giraffe Audio. I'm Nick and today we're joined by Andy.
Hello.
Who you might remember from previous video we did. You were wearing your Genelec hat on that day.
I was.
But
yes.
today you're here representing one of the other companies you deal with.
Yep.
Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
So, we're here today to talk about Eventide. And Eventide are a company that's been around for many, many years, and it's kind of, if you go back through time, Eventide was used on a lot of, kind of took centre stage on a lot of massive records. One of the things notably was the vocal sound for David Bowie on a lot of stuff. Kind of Tony Visconti, one of his boxer tricks was an Eventide 910, which was kind of one of the original harmonisers.
So they were very much on the effects.
Very much so. It was Mojo kind of producers would have this box of tricks that they could kind of wheel into a session and kind of wow artists. I mean, Tony Visconti said in the past that was one of the reasons why he got booked for sessions. He could bring in a box of tricks that would add something extra that nobody else had. That unit, the 910, was just an incredible piece of equipment. It's actually used on Back in Black to pitch the snare down. So it had all these really hidden uses, because Eventide back in the day made some products for broadcast in terms of vari speed stuff. So if you had credits at the end of a show, they'd kind of speed that up so they get more adverts in afterwards. So little things like this, they were way ahead of their time in terms of digital processing. Before digital processing was even a thing.
Right.
You know?
Right. Wow.
So kind of move forward to today, all of those incredibly important pieces of kit like the H8000, the 910, they were out of the reach for most people. They were kind of prohibitively expensive, the reserve of professional studios and broadcast facilities. Step forward to the present day, that technology is now kind of condensed down into guitar products, individual foot pedals, pedals that could be used with synths, kind of small processors that did specific tasks. So the first sign of that was the Time Factor pedal, which was a delay that came out a number of years ago, and then that was followed by the Mod Factor, the Pitch Factor, and the Space. This chap here, the H9, is kind of the greatest hits of Eventide, if you like. So everything that those algorithms in one box that's incredibly easy to use, super accessible, that works with guitar, synth, bass, vocals, whatever you want.
So you get a bit of a mix from all of these other things.
Very much so.
In the H9.
Yeah, in one small box. And the H9 comes in kind of three, not form factors, because it's the same footprint, but you have a H9 core, which is basically one or two algorithms, or one or two sounds from the factor pedals. Then you've got standard H9, which comes with about 15 sounds, and then this, which is the H9 MAX, which has everything that they've brought out for the factor pedals, plus a few that are exclusive to H9, and then anything that gets released further on down the line will also be available free of charge.
Excellent. So yeah, I mean, it looks just like a standard guitar pedal. You've got a few extras. You've got the MIDI in and out on it as well, and not that much control on the top. I see we've got a nice little screen on it here, but then you've got something going on over on the computer screen here.
Yes, one of Eventide's kind of legacy, aside from mind-boggling effects, was that you would have to spend a bit of time with them. You'd have to kind of sit down, maybe read through the manual, and really get familiar.
Learn stuff.
Yeah, kind of like old school, kind of sitting down in front of the gear and really getting stuck in. Where H9 kind of stands aside from that is that you've got control either via the H9 app on Mac or PC, or you've got the H9 app on iPhone or iPad. And what that allows you to do is to get super deep into the pedal really quickly and just kind of get to the meat of the sounds and edit them quickly on the fly. You can do all of that from the top of the pedal. Say for example, if you're on rehearsal and you just want to tweak something off in the studio and you want to grab something quickly, these XY encoders give you kind of the most relevant parameters at your kind of fingertips. And if you want to go a little bit further into it, you can kind of go into a deeper layer of it and get access to kind of the next level. So you can kind of scroll through absolutely everything that the pedal does. And then your encoder at the centre of this hot knob just alters the value. We can do that on the app as well. So here we've got a warm chorus, which kind of sounds like this.
So on the computer, it looks like you've got an app. That looks like it's a lot more familiar for guitarists and people familiar with pedals. I mean, that actually does look like
that's
the pedal.
That's what the mod factor is.
Yeah.
In its physical form, that's kind of the top panel of a mod factor. So you've got the encoders there to kind of grab and tweak and do whatever you want to do with. And like I say, kind of no matter what you kind of step through, that will then appear on the pedal. So you've got this pulsating chorus. If I turn the pedal on, there we go. So it's really, really quick to audition sounds. And like you said, that is the overview of the mod factor. If we go to this algorithms page here.
Okay, let me stop you there. You keep talking about this algorithm, but who's he?
Well, Al Gorithm. He's a
Al Gore has great rhythm.
So he's like a deputy president of the United States, but with
Rhythm.
with rhythm.
That's it. It's exactly it. He's condensed into 5 different incarnations within this pedal. So the algorithms, if you think of them as individual sound sets within a particular pedal. So, for example, you've got the time factor. Then that's broken. Overall it's a delay pedal. Then in there you've got kind of subdivisions of different types of delay. So a digital delay would be an algorithm. A vintage delay would be another algorithm. A ping pong. So it's different kind of styles. For the mod factor, is easy to break down. It's chorus, phasers, QR, flanger, mod filter. So in the core version of this pedal, you can buy individual blocks if you like. So you'd buy, you'd go along to the App Store and buy a flanger. So if you had a Queen gig and you wanted a flanger sound, and then you wanted a pitch shifting sound, you can just be really specific about what you're using. If you go for the Max version, you get everything. So you've got a huge palette of sounds to play with. But if you wanted to really prescribe it, so you've got a pedal board that's got your delay, reverb on it, everything that you kind of need, and you just need something that does pitch shifting really well, or something like a really specific sounding flanger, then you can just buy that specific sound in that pedal. Off you go.
There you go. So really, the algorithms, they are like the pedals used to get your little standalone Digitech Boss.
Yes,
or
exactly.
like that.
Yeah. So imagine that's the specific pedal. So you kind of spend your 50, 60, 70, 80 quid on a flanger. So in this case, you go into your flanger setting, find a preset, and then just kind of go through, find one that you kind of like. You know, so it's dead easy to kind of find stuff that's kind of somewhere near, and then you can just tweak it from there, get it to a point where you kind of like it. Super quick to get sounds happening, and that goes for every single algorithm in there. But yeah, all an algorithm is, it's a specific pedal sound, if you like.
Yeah.
On from there, you've got kind of rotaries. So the thing about this pedal is, if you're a sound designer, if you're playing in a band that has to cover a lot of material, a pedal like this is kind of super useful because it covers so much ground. If someone throws a song at you or a piece of music and you think, oh hell, I need a rotary for that, or I need a specific kind of phaser sound, you've got it there. You're not kind of scrambling around trying to work out how to budget with another sound. You've got that sound there.
So I mean, it is literally like having a full pedal board just in a single pedal.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of with pedals getting smaller and smaller, this kind of thing just takes up no room at all. But you can cover every
I mean, that you could have in your gig bag with your guitar and just turn up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
you're kind of ready to go, aren't
there's
you? So
absolutely nothing else like that around, unless you went to look at a 19-inch rack unit that was thousands of pounds. It's kind of something like that. It's the same algorithms as the kind of the 19-inch rack units, just kind of boiled down into something that
condensed into that.
that'll fit on a desktop or a pedal board. The other thing about this as well, it'll accept pretty much any signal. So it'll work with synths, it'll work with bass guitars. I've got a couple of guys that use it as as a kind of ascending return that's always wired on a mixing console. So you can just feed to it in real time and then kind of print that back into your DAW. So if you're looking for a middle 8 or something like that, or an intro, there's presets in there that just kind of evoke creativity. So you can kind of find something like the space pedal that Eventide brought out. Reverb pedals can be used in two ways. You either use it just as a spring reverb, or you get something that's kind of weird and wonderful. This does everything. It was a really amazing pedal when it came out. So you've got kind of stuff like this black hole. If we look at this dark matter setting, super ethereal, so kind of properly soundscapey. So if you're not a keyboard player, but you're a guitarist, suddenly you can kind of get involved with creating these pads and these kind of really emotive sounds. Stick that on the volume pedal, and it's just
Where you go.
that's it. Like music for adverts all day long. It's great. But yeah, like these algorithms, some of the kind of more out there sounds. I mean, you can use this for a traditional function gig down the Dog and Duck. You got your standard chorus sounds, standard phaser sounds. But when you start looking at some of the kind of the real heavyweight sounds, you get that kind of super serious modulated effect that's within there. You can't create that unless you're kind of working with synths or you're working with something that's got a lot of processing power there. And again, all these can be tweakable. You can assign various parameters to the hot switch, so you can start at a very slow rate, hit the hot switch, and then suddenly you've got everything ramped up. That can all be tied to MIDI as well, so if you've got any MIDI controls, you can assign it to that and control it in real time. From the top of the surface, yeah, it looks really clean and looks like there's not a lot you can do on there. But if you wire that to an outboard controller, if you connect it to MIDI, then all of these parameters are accessible.
So you've got all of that depth there.
So if you're a synth guy, there's infinite things you can do with it.
Yeah.
You can lose afternoons with this kind of thing. You just kind of disappear down the rabbit hole. And then stuff like that happens where you get kind of weird resonances that live within the algorithm. It's bizarre. So yeah, like the space is one particular pedal. So you've got kind of like almost like kind of bored cello stuff in instant kind of Hans Zimmer territory. Yeah. And if you don't have to treat that with an instrument, you could kind of just put percussive elements through it. Kind of look back at kind of sound design stuff like Blade Runner, all those kind of super expansive reverbs and stuff. You can kind of get that kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. And it's all.
I mean, that's a very interesting thing about it, because in that form, you kind of think, well, it's just really about guitarists. But what you're saying is having the fact that it can deal with any kind of input.
Yeah.
You've got guys in the studio. It's not limited there. You've got the depth of the control through the app, but also the simplicity to be able to use it live.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, that's a powerful little box.
It's ridiculous. I mean, the pitch shifting side of things. I mean, Eventide were always known as. The term harmonizer was always used, so you think of it. All it does is changes pitch, but the harmonizer concept encompassed everything from delays to flanges to everything. But the pitch shifting side of the Eventide story is kind of right at the core of it. That was one of the things that they were really known for. There was nothing else that could do it. You had to use an app or piece of equipment through the 70s and 80s. So that's why you'd see a lot of these, a lot of the big studio guitarists having racks the size of a fridge with units that were thousands and thousands of dollars that would just do one function: a great delay, a great reverb, pitch shifting. But with this thing, it's kind of super small, super accessible, and like the process is super clean. It's also kind of make guitar. And as a guitarist, it's really nice to have access to those kind of sounds, because normally that's the preserve of the keyboard player. We look at something like, if we go back to, come on there. If you go to pitch flex, loads and loads of harmony stuff. So you've got a minor third. totally, you're kind of in that kind of Queen territory. And it's like, and they're the sounds that were on those records, you know. It's ridiculous. One of my favourite things is, where is it? Oh, the synth. Here we go. So this is the kind of stuff that you can't really do with anything else. So you've got all the kind of proper, like cheesy 80s synth lines. Mega man, like, and as a guitarist, that's just like, yeah. But you run a synth through that, you run a pure sine wave through it, and then you
got all these other sound
exactly,
design possibilities with it.
So it's ridiculous what you can kind of get away with. Even the thing I love is kind of like some of like the really kind of 80s stuff that kind of properly nails it. Like that kind of like pseudo 80s chorus thing. So any Bryan Adams record, that's the sound. Brilliant. So all your Tina Turner stuff right in there, your Bryan Adams stuff, perfect. But yeah, it's perfect, man. It's great.
We'll avoid discussing the semantics of whether you really should be doing your Bryan Adams covers or
not. Are you doing the privacy of your own bedroom?
That's what you're into. You carry on.
I'm just terrified of content I do on YouTube now.
Quick, post some more copyright material.
I don't know why everyone rags on Bryan Adams, man. He's just,
the guy's a legend.
He was a visionary
in his own head. No. Anyway,
one of the with the H9 there is some exclusive. There are algorithms that are specific to this that you can't get on anything else. One of those new ones is Spacetime, which came out recently. Now this is one of the first algorithms that has multiple effects in. There was one or two previously. There was a spring reverb that had a tremolo in there, but this is the first effect that has 3 different engines involved in it. So you've got a chorus, you've got a delay and a reverb. So in terms of kind of ease of use and usefulness, this is kind of one of the ones that you could just leave on for a full gig if you just wanted just a little bit of chorus, for example. That kind of almost flangy chorus. And then if we go into the pedal, we've got this different patch view, which shows you kind of the signal flow of the algorithm. So we've got this modulation setting, kind of set high, and then the delay with no level, and the reverb with no level. If I wanted to pull that mod down, turn up just the reverb. A bit more. And we've got just reverb. Turn the decay up. Super low. Really useful if you just want kind of simple sounds, just to kind of
bread and butter.
Absolutely,
really,
yeah. So I think what sometimes is the case with multi-effects processors, people kind of, okay, well, it does all this weird and wonderful stuff, but what if I just want a specific kind of a basic bread and butter sound like that? Then this is kind of the perfect algorithm for that. So with the delay, similar thing, so you just increase the level. We've actually got 2 delay lines in there. So the first delay, we can increase the delay time, reduce the feedback, and then we've got a second delay we need to introduce. Massively useful sounds, and then as you kind of go further into it, there's more. What kind of just super produced guitar sound. And this is also you can kind of run that as mono, run it as stereo, and like I say, doesn't have to be a guitar, could be a vocal, could be synth, could be
Whatever.
whatever you want.
Whatever
Yeah,
you want,
exactly.
it works
A
with,
proper
so.
box of tricks.
Incredible. I suppose as well what you were saying there about this being a new thing, this is something they're actively updating, they're bringing new things out.
Yeah, of course. So kind of every few months there'll be a new update. I mean, the last one previous to that was the Crust Station, which was Eventide would always kind of sneak distortion effects into some of the rack mount gear. So like the Eclipse, there was a few kind of presets in there. This is just kind of like filthy, kind of quite lo-fi stuff, really. Some of it. You can kind of mimic the sound of like dying batteries, but stuff that's kind of vibey. So if you wanted like an intro for something that was like, and then it goes to a big sound for when the rest of the band kick in. Those things are super useful in a production sense, but you're not having to kind of try and do that with a plugin. You can do it in real time with performance. Stuff in here that's just sounds absolutely. So all like that kind of Royal Blood thing or Muse thing is just. But it tracks super well. Yeah. So kind of the thing is, it's all usable. It's not a kind of, it doesn't freak out on you if you use single note stuff. It's so again stuff like that. Really kind of gnarly thing. So regardless of what, regardless of what style of music you're doing, it's kind of something that's.
Well, it's pretty much everything you're throwing at it.
Yes.
Just that range.
Yeah, it'll just
sounds
kind of
fantastic, and yeah.
And he just kind of makes stuff just sound absolutely disgusting. So you can get the sag. But little things like that you stick out on the end of the production. It sounds great, man. So it's the upshot of it. There's a hell of a lot in there. Like I said, you can additionally control that with an iPad as well. There's XY functions, so you can kind of go in there and use the gyroscope within the iPad to control sounds. So if you've got a Bez member of the band that you want to kind of dance around with, you can do. You know? And if that's a thing anymore.
21st century maracas.
Yeah.
It's like giving a iPad and trust him to get your guitar sound right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
with that.
but hours and hours and hours of fun. There's an algorithm called Ultra Tap, which just sends individual notes. Crackers. Shot ball, there we go. This one. But again, super useful and just kind of gives kind of dry sounds, just something. Just kind of gives it some life and gives it.
Yeah. Just kind of adds that depth to it, doesn't it? It really does sound.
Yeah, absolutely. And super programmable, super tweakable. But the kind of the stock sounds that come with it are just a really good starting points for you to kind of get going. But yeah, there's nothing else out there that kind of does what this does. But the most exciting thing for me is that it's easy to use. You're not sat there with a manual for 6 weeks and scared to kind of tweak anything. Yeah. You just get into it deep really quickly. Say like on the top panel, that X parameter there gives you the mix of the algorithm. So dry, and then you increase it to something super wet. The length, and if you kind of press and hold on one of these, it'll kind of take you into an expert mode, which gives you every parameter on there. You just tap through and then just scroll through it, hit your preset button twice, and then it's saved,
and you're ready to go.
Yeah, and all this kind of stuff as well. Tap tempo. If you hold that down, you then go into a mode that allows you just to step up through the different settings, hit the hot knob, and then you can bank down. In a live context, you can stick an external pedal on there, just a non-latching foot switch, and you can bank it down. Use that as a bank down. This is a bank up. And then you just activate the algorithm there. Super straightforward. But I know a couple of guys that use a couple of those together. But if you've got a pedal board that's fairly comprehensive and you need something with a bit more horsepower in it. One of the things this is great for is if you're playing in a band where there's no keyboard player or no brass section, so you can kind of fill in that role. Not in terms of kind of like fake brass MIDI parts, but you can kind of find synth tones that kind of will...
Something that'll add the extra texture.
Yeah, exactly. So it's something like crab bass. It's like totally kind of like P-Funk era weird Moog thing. Now you can't get off on that. That's amazing.
So you just crack that out, and then your bass player will just hang his head in shame and walk off.
Well, bass players shouldn't be bringing pedal boards to the gigs anyway. That's a completely different matter. They've got enough to get wrong in the first place. But yeah, like I say, it's a pretty much a blank canvas. You can kind of go wherever you want. This thing, it's monster.
Yeah, I mean, well, what you've shown us today, it's an interesting box because you've got the simplicity with it there if you need it, but the complexity with the extra app.
Yeah.
You've got such a range of sounds, be that your bread and butter chorus delay reverbs, right up to really crazy effects. So you kind of, I mean, what you're showing, it is kind of a box with something for everybody here, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And if anyone's got any questions, obviously speak to the knowledgeable guys at Giraffe and head over to eventide.com.
Excellent, well, Andy, thank you very much for that demo.
Always a pleasure, chaps.
Absolutely awesome, and yeah, if you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below, and we'll see you on the next video.